All right. Well, hi, hello, and welcome to Is My VPN Trying to Kill Me? Today's webinar is sponsored by Xage Security and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator for this conversation today because we are going to go a little off book. We're going to step away from the more traditional formats and break things up a little bit. We're going to spend some time talking with all of you, and we're going to get into some polls, a little bit more interactive than the usual straight up presentation, right? We're going to participate in more of a roundtable, a panel discussion with our wonderful expert speakers. I cannot wait for you to meet our two incredible guests. And we have just a few housekeeping things to get through that are going to help you get the most out of your time here with us today. So let's get the housekeeping rolling, and then we can get into our conversation. I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour of your audience console. If you haven't joined us before, this might be new. If you have, hey, you know what? Repetition makes perfection, right? Something like that. All right. Let's start out by heading over to your questions section. This is your questions window on your audience console. Now, the best part of a webinar like the one we have ahead of us here is the chance to ask questions directly of the expert presenters that we will be hearing from today. On top of that, our speakers, who I'm going to bring out in just a moment, we're going to be watching your questions coming in real time. We're going to adjust the conversation, the flow, the discussion based on the questions you're asked, the topics that you're invested in and you're interested in as we see those coming into the questions window. So that means now is the time to get active, to get involved, to be posting those questions, comments, suggestions, thoughts, brilliant ideas, general wonderments, and life musings, whatever you have on your mind. We want to hear from you. So let's give this a little test run right now. If you haven't already said hi or hello to the community here with us today, let us know how you're doing. Say hi. I see Jeff. I see Tony. I see Morteza. I see Daniel. I saw Gilbert earlier. I saw Corey, of course, our Wisconsinite. Good to see all of you. Keep those highs and hellos coming in. We want to be hearing from you today. Now, a quick side note, that window is also the best place to reach out and let us know if you do have any technical issues during our session. Knock on wood. Hopefully this doesn't come up, but if it does, the first thing I want you to try, though, is a browser refresh. That is going to clear out any of the more usual tech gremlins, anything with audio, slides not advancing, something like that. Try a little browser refresh. But if that doesn't work, you're going to shoot us a message in that questions window, and the Actual Tech Media crew will be there to help you out. All right, the last stop on our tour, and then we'll keep things rolling here. Make sure you check out the handouts tab. There are some great resources and follow-ups, things you are going to want to explore a little bit after we wrap our conversation. So make sure you've got those. Download those PDFs, put those aside, hold on to them. Don't start reading them just yet because we've got a great presentation ahead of us, but you will want them when we wrap. So make sure you've got those downloaded, put those aside, and hold on to them for later. It is not just that wonderful content that we are giving away today. We also have a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. Of course, you do need to be here in live attendance during the webinar in order to qualify to win that prize, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you are not sure what those are, we have them listed for you in that handouts tab. So head on back over to the handouts tab, click and scroll down, and you will find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Now, not only does asking a question today make things more fun, more interactive, little high fives and gold stars from me, it also enters you to win that $50 best question gift card. It's $50 Amazon gift card going to the best question asked. Now, even if we do not get to your question in our live discussion today, you are still entered to win. So get that question in. The other piece of that is we make sure all your questions asked, not only are we reviewing them to get that best question gift card, but we will also send them to Xage so that you are able to get responses back. So even if we don't get you in a live Q&A today, you will get answers to your questions. So right now, make sure, get all limber, shake it out, get ready, and get ready to ask those questions because you are going to get some great answers today in the moment. You will get some great follow-ups, and you are entered to win that $50 best question Amazon gift card. All right, well, that was it for the housekeeping. We got through that pretty quickly, which means it is time to get this show on the road. episode. And I am so excited that I get to introduce you to our speakers today, an incredible dynamic duo here with us. We have Roman Arutyunov, co-founder and senior vice president of products at Xage Security, and Dr. Chase Cunningham, retired U.S. Navy chief, current VP of security market research at G2, and host of Dr. Zero Trust podcast. Let's get Roman and Chase on out here with us. Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, hello, Jess. Hi, everyone.
All right. Well, we are going to kick things off. And Roman, I'm going to start out with you. I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of insight into, is my VPN trying to kill me? And in particular, I'm wondering if you could help us zoom in a little bit on why we're having this conversation today. What is the urgency to this topic? Why are we talking about this now?
Yeah, so we got a great topic today, and it's one of my favorites, actually. So, it's no surprise to anyone here that, remote access tools are unavoidable today, right? So we're working more closely with each other, remote work, we're deploying applications all over the place. We're working closely with our suppliers, vendors, the whole entire, supply chains. It's really an interconnected world. Mm-hmm. And in today's world, VPNs are still the most popular technology for remote access. Organizations just love them. Unfortunately, hackers love them just as much, right? And what we've seen recently is that an interesting and disturbing trend. Traditionally, VPNs have been used by malicious actors to gain remote access into the enterprise. Stolen credentials, stolen VPN account, and they get in. Today, however, not only is that happening, but VPN software itself is being targeted as a vector of attack. So it's being used against organizations, and hence the topic for today is my VPN trying to kill me. So I'm excited what we're talking about, and we'll dive in deeper as we go through this.
So the answer is maybe. We'll find out more. This is the start of the horror movie. There's some scary music building in the background. Chase, let's start by, before we move into the current and the scary music swells as our VPNs stalk us and try to kill us. Let's start by looking backwards, and I want to start with a little bit of a history. And where we've been before we start moving to what comes next.
Yeah, so we're all supposed to be modern businesses. As 2024, last time I checked, I get lost in the years sometimes, but we are in this decade. Most businesses, if I went in and said, hey, what year was the VPN launched as a control or as a security solution? They would say, oh, last, 5-7 years ago. No, it was actually 93 was really, and you could actually even go further than that. It's basically was released the same time Independence Day, the movie, the first one came out. This was a long time before Will Smith started slapping people. So that's what you really need to understand is that the VPNs that you're running on that you consider security technology have been around for a long time. I think Jurassic Park was the #1 movie the year prior. Then you had Independence Day. If I came into your business today and I said, I have an amazing piece of technology, it was built 30 years ago, you would laugh me out of the room. But organizations are still running on this today, and they're wondering, well, why do we continue to have breaches? How is this a problem? Where are we going wrong? How come I can't get to ZT? You're running on legacy technology that is so old that, Independence Day was the thing. This goes way, way back, and I could nerd all day long on PPTP and the folks that actually coded this up and released it. But the point of this is, unless you think that an Independence Day is a modern day movie, you're not running with modern day technology if you're relying on VPNs as a security solution. And the last thing here, VPNs were never released specifically to be a security solution. They were released to help people get from one point in a network to another point. That is what they do. They just happen to have some security stuff kind of kludgely, if that's a word, bolted onto it. And people have adopted this as a technology. Not a good way to be a modern, secure business.
Chase, I feel a little attacked by this metaphor, this time frame, because I do feel that Independence Day is a current movie, but then when you think about it and you realize just how old that is, that's a great benchmark. Although it is getting confusing because they keep redoing all these. So now we've
Well, they
got
don't make them any
Ghostbusters and
better. Yeah,
Alien.
they're just making
Yeah.
them, slightly less crappy, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, new graphics and same jacked up storyline.
Yes. So there you go. If you think that it's time for a reboot of Independence Day and Jurassic Park and Dune and all of these, if you're enjoying these reboots, it's also time to reevaluate your VPN. This is our starting point. All right. Well, we're gonna start by turning this back around to the audience. Before I get into asking you guys a few questions, we're gonna ask the audience a few questions. So, audience, this is your turn to show your VP ninja skills. How much do you know? And this is an easy one because we just got a little bit of a clue here from Chase. So we are wondering, when did the VPN first become an enterprise technology? Do you think it was in the early 1980s? So back when personal computers were just fancy typewriters, and the closest thing to a VPN was covering your screen and don't look at me, don't look at me, when you typed your password. Or are we talking about the mid 90s? So right when dial-up tones were the hottest track. Oh my goodness. Did you guys know that young people nowadays don't know what a busy signal sounds like? This is like not a thing that young people know. Okay. Yep. Good. Feeling this is a good webinar for feeling our ages. All right. And then we've got VPN sliding to the enterprise tech scene, secretly hoping that no one would notice that they were using the internet as a secure courier pigeon service. And then the last choice, early 2000s, right after everyone finally recovered from the shock of the Y2K bug that never bit. Yes. VPNs popped up fashionably late to the internet party. Okay, Roman, Chase, what are you expecting to see from the audience here?
Well, I mean, I would hope everybody kind of realizes the 90s were when that movie came around. So your educated guess would be the 90s. But, the 2000s definitely were a real thing. As somebody that grew up in Central Texas, where my parents actually had a Y2K bunker, I do sympathize with you. But it was in the 90s.
Okay, let's see how our audience did. All right. Oh, you guys, so 50% said the 90s. What do you think makes people think it skews a little earlier or a little late?
Well, I mean, technically they're not totally wrong because the PPTP and the protocols that built VPNs were released in the 80s. Some could argue the late 70s to a degree, but when they were adopted as part of a sort of technology piece of the portfolio was the 90s. So, and this is where if you get a bunch of geeks in a room, you'll always have a bunch of people who are always right and no one's ever wrong. So you could argue it a whole bunch of different ways.
Okay, this is the equivalent of asking like who's the best superhero with a bunch of Marvel fans.
Right. Are you Marvel or DC? Which one?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we've had that debate on these webinars before. We're not going to start that one today. That one gets heated. All right. Also Star Wars versus Star Trek.
I also like the answer about the Y2K that it came out at Y2K. It was such a big event that took everybody was up in arms about it, and people thought maybe VPN is a solution to Y2K, right? Maybe VPNs can help us here too, right? So I mean, it's just like Chase said, it's kind of like one of those tools today that's used being thrown at everything as a solution and everything, but it's really has major drawbacks.
It's funny, those panaceas rarely work. Hey, the thing that solves everything often doesn't, or at least it gets spread too thin at some points. So it's like those when you go into a restaurant and it has 40 pages of menu. Are you really going to get something good? All right, not that I'm picking on any restaurants with 40-page menus. All right, let's go to this next question for the audience here. What was the first protocol for VPN? So I'm curious about this one. This is kind of testing our nerd skills a little bit. Chase, Roman, what are you expecting to hear? What do you think the audience is going to expect here?
I'm hoping that they don't all pick OpenVPN or IPsec.
Yeah. Yeah, we've
Okay.
changed it
Where there's
way
a
too.
college professor. Yeah.
Okay, we're seeing a few write-ins as well. Yeah, if you don't want to click on the polls on the screen, feel free to write your answers in the chat. All right, I see a few answers coming in. Let's see how the audience did. I'm gonna move us over to the. I'm giving you all 3 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! All right, so we had 79% in the point-to-point tunneling protocol. Okay, is this? Oh, I like this. PTP, the granddaddy of VPN protocols. That's great. Born in the mid 90s. That's another clue. Okay, so what do you guys think? Why? Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean that's what PPTP was the thing. The folks that wrote that piece of code and protocol basically were putting that out as a way of getting people from one thing within a network to another. For those of us that were doing kind of the, I guess you'd call it lazy hacker stuff back in the late 90s when we were downloading music we weren't supposed to use, we all were usually using a PPTP type thing. So yeah, it's I'm glad no one picked on OpenVPN, because then we would have to basically kick you out of the webinar.
Yeah, yeah, and notice also that in the name itself, point-to-point tunneling protocol, there's not even a word about security in it, right? So it's not even a secure point-to-point tunneling protocol or anything about it even implying security in it. Just a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I like Jamie, who wrote these on your team, Roman, included a sneaky Harry Potter reference in this, which I appreciate. The cloak of invisibility is the that's the perfect metaphor. Well done, Jamie. All right. All right, we're going to go to one last question for our audience. This is your last chance to get in some gold star answers here, audience. Let's see how you do. Which incident is often referenced as the first fail of the perimeter-based security model? So we have the Morris worm incident, the I love you virus outbreak. Aw, that's so sad. That's such a nice, friendly little thing. And then SQL Slammer worm, which sounds like an 80s rock band, and I love it and would enjoy that very much.
More, right?
All right, what do we think? What are we expecting? Morris, I love you, or SQL Slammer?
Yeah, my guess is a lot of folks are going to say Morris worm. SQL Slammer, probably not. I'll throw everybody for a loop here. The actual first breach was way back in the Trojan War. If you're familiar with what happened in Troy, that's literally the first breach of the perimeter-based security model. So there you go. So it was thousands of years ago.
Dude, that's so cool, Chase. I never even thought about it that way. That's literally, I mean, we talk about Trojan horses all the time. And
that's
of course,
we call malware Trojans, because that's exactly what happened. They went and got something out on the wilds of the web, and they brought it past the wall, and things went sideways from there. And then you wind up with that crappy movie with Brad Pitt and a weird accent. So.
Oh, I love that. History's so cool. All right. Well, I think we should show everyone their answers here. Let's see our very last quiz. Oh, Gilbert says Odyssey to the rescue. Go Homer. Yes, I love it. We're covering the full. We've hit on a lot of nerdy references already, team, and I'm here for this. All right, let's show the audience the results. We've got which incident, and it looks like 56% saying I love you virus. Roman, what do you think? Is that what you would expect to see? Tell us more.
Yeah, I think that's so I mean, I think that this is it is a question which really could be really anyone, right? Any one of these. There's typically breaching the perimeter security is the widespread way of breaching an enterprise and organization today. I love you virus outbreak sounds great. Chase, what do you think about this?
Yeah, really, I remember I Love You when that came out, and I was actually on board my first ship, and I remember the CEO of the ship coming on and saying, "No one click on emails that say I love you," and it was so weird because we're in the military, and here's the CEO of the ship saying, "Don't click emails about I love you," and everyone's going, "What?" Like, okay, sure.
See, I like that. I do. You have to give it to. I mean, I'm not giving any credit to actual threat actors, and certainly not any kind of high fives. But that's a funny name. That's a cute. That's
It
a cute
works. Yeah.
threat to have to deal with. All right. Well, I think this has been a great place to kind of start. Are we feeling in sort of seeing where the audience has been? Are we feeling like there's a good level of understanding of VPNs and we're all kind of on the same page as we jump in?
Yeah, no, this is solid. I think we got some good results, and it's always good when you don't see everyone go way off the reservation. So
Yeah, then we have to sort of backtrack and go back. All right. Well, we're gonna then continue with our speaking of looking back. As we talked about right at the start, it is kind of important to understand that history piece. That's why we sort of started there, Chase, and understanding where we've been and why things are the way that they are right now before we can start to think about why it's important to consider changing or evolving as we go forward. So, Chase, I'm going to actually sort of hand this back to you and ask you to dig in a little bit further and explore that history a little bit more for us.
sure, yeah. So if we go back and really think about the history of VPNs, like I think this is something where a lot of folks are operating with a real misconception. VPNs were never created to be a security solution. They were made literally PPTP, and some of the things that were written even earlier than that were to get someone from this point to that point and pipe them directly through that. And that's what they were there for. You could, and I think that this is probably a fair statement too, argue that the firewall was never created to be a security solution. It's also just to make sure packets go where they're supposed to go. But we've kind of finagled this into a security thing. And because it has the word fire in it and virtual, private, and whatever, it's become a security technology. The reality of it is these are tunneling protocols. And if you back up from that for a second, you can see that the real benefit for being able to hide within a network in a point-to-point sort of relationship, that's good for the bad guys. And I mean, having been a red teamer and having done stuff for different organizations and agencies, I can tell you that that's what you want to do. You want to hide in the dark areas of the network. You don't want to be noticed, especially if you can get a user's passwords and creds to get onto a VPN. It's game over. And if you follow what's been going on with the market for the last X number of years, you see that there's kind of two trends. There's the folks that have moved past VPN and legacy technology and are moving into this new state where there's ZTNA, policy controls, larger sort of strategic technology alignment. And they're doing really well, including Google, that basically got crushed with Op Aurora and has pivoted into Beyond Trust, which is their instantiation of CT. 188,000 employees globally, zero issues since they moved to that. And organizations that go, I'm going to keep testing the water and see what happens. And they're the ones that keep winding up on the news or filing that wonderful form we love to send to the SEC now when you get breached, because they're not buying into this next step. And, admittedly, changing technology, change in general, and anything is never comfortable. No one likes getting up on January 2nd, going to the gym for the first time in 10 years, but it's going to make you better over time. And if you stick with it and really age off, and I think the last part here is to understand none of this is hidden from people. You have decades of research and we have publications, RSAs coming up with 40,000 people and 2,300 vendors, all showing you that there's a better way to do this. It's time to walk across the tightrope, folks. If you continue to engage in legacy tech, like from the 90s, expect 1990s outcomes.
Yeah. I'll add to that. I see it all the time that organizations actually think that their VPN is protecting them. So, my assets are protected, my applications, my data, my machines are all protected because they're behind a VPN, right? And that's a common misconception. Not only do VPNs not protect or secure your assets, they're actually a way for them to get attacked. Today, we're seeing this trend of VPN software itself, which is often built, to your point, Chase, technologies from the 90s on, antiquated stacks. Linux versions that are 20 plus years old and haven't been patched. And as a result, they are the hosts for the Trojans. That software itself becomes the host for the Trojan. And once that Trojan is in there, they actually call them today remote access Trojans or rats. Once the rats are in the software and it's sitting in the VPN and sitting inside the network, those rats can be activated at any time and spread across your whole entire organization, your whole entire network, your systems. So not only is VPN not protecting your assets, it's actually a way for these rats to get in, for this malicious access to get in. And oftentimes, as we saw with the latest Ivanti attacks, there's not much that organizations can do to address those concerns. The stacks are so antiquated, the software itself is so compromised that the only thing you can really do is rip it out. You can't. It doesn't even go away with the factory default restore, right? It's still in there.
Boy, I get a little over acronymed sometimes, but I have to say that rats one is ridiculously apt. So that I'm on board with that as an acronym. I think you've both really given us some great reasons to be a little concerned. And I'm going to repeat, because Chase, I really enjoy, if you have 90s security, you can expect 90s outcomes. And I think that's really sort of what we're hitting. And when we look back at that past, it is sort of saying, okay, well, now it's time to sort of evolve and change. Both of you have talked a little bit about the human sides of things, in terms of all the security features that we're using and how we interact with that in our teams and our end users interact with that. So that's kind of where I'd like to go with this conversation a little bit next. When we're talking about security, this balance between productivity and security comes up all the time, because there's annoyance or difficulties or roadblocks or obstacles that make us more secure, but that can also make us frustrated and could impede productivity. And so I'm wondering if I can ask you, and Roman, maybe I can get you to kick us off on this one. If we're talking as an organization about productivity versus security, how do we prioritize those two? Are they mutually exclusive?
Yeah, so I think it's a good question. I don't think it's really a fair question. It's like, what's more valuable, productivity or security? I think these two are really so intertwined that it's hard really to tell. So, on one hand, if you have a major, security breach like we saw with recently with Colonial Pipeline or the Clorox, Clorox actually went out and said, all of our cost-cutting measures, all of our business optimization measures, all of that was wiped out by the single security attack that we had on our systems, right? So that productivity just, it was all wasted, right? So everything that they were doing. Colonial Pipeline, as you took out, bunch of the pipeline and caused devastation across the eastern states primarily, but still it was major productivity drain on the whole nation. If you think about it, impacted people's lives. On the other hand, right, with some of these antiquated methods, security can actually impede productivity. Right. Mm-hmm. So you have situations today where organizations are, dealing with, technologies like VPNs, and these VPNs put you directly into the network and expose that network to any malicious malware or ransomware that may exist on the endpoint itself. So what are organizations doing to prevent, to help with that issue? They are carefully managing their firewall rules. And organizations now today have, hundreds of firewalls. They're all overlapping, millions of rules. It becomes a nightmare. And often, administrators spend, weeks on end to, add a single rule into the firewall, which means during that whole time that a person who really needs access doesn't have it, right? He's got to wait for all of that, to be done. Then what do they do? Well, firewall maybe rules are not enough. I'm actually gonna, I'm really worried that you're gonna have that virus on your machine that's going to, get onto my network through the VPN. So I'm going to ship you a laptop with my endpoint, protection software on it, so you can use that laptop. Now that takes time too. That costs money. That's all productivity drain, right? So dealing with antiquated security tools leads to big productivity drains. And ultimately what ends up happening is, if the organization can't really wait for all of that to happen, for all of that IT work to happen, what do? They go buy a cellular modem, they go and plug it in directly into their network, and they let that remote user connect, bypassing all of those security measures, all of that orchestration that IT does, bypassing all of that and letting them direct access into their systems, and any malicious actor that can use that connection as well, and any malware that can, leverage it as well. All of that security is just bypassed. So I think it's very, these two things are, really tied together. You got to give people security tools that are easy to administer, easy to use, that actually drive productivity. Right. So, and they prevent attacks, they protect assets, and they enable, people do what they really need to do to get their job done. Chase, anything you want to, add to that?
Well, I mean, for me, the two are intertwined. I mean, if you're a digital business, in which everybody pretty much is in some way, shape, or form today, how proficient are you going to be? How productive are you going to be when your business is shut down? Can you go, if I told you today, go back to paper, would you be able to do that? Most people would be like, no, we would lose our minds, not possible, blah, blah, blah. That's what's going to happen if you continue to do the same things and expect a different outcome. I mean, you've seen major government organizations, you've seen multi-billion-dollar a year companies. When they get hit, they have to revert back to stuff that we used to use in the 90s to keep themselves operational. You're not going to be able to do that. You don't want to do that. You're in a competitive space. You're trying to stay ahead of those that are coming after your profit margins competitively. If you're not up and operational digitally, you are not being productive. How do you do that? In today's world, you must operate in a secure fashion. Does this mean you have to be Fort Knox? No, but it does mean that you have to have a plan in place, and that you should be able to keep things moving fluidly so that you can understand and direct resources where they need to go. And I think that that's why zero trust is becoming a strategy that people are adopting, and those things, because the two are in the same boat together. So I don't even have the conversation with people anymore where they talk about, well, we can be productive or secure. You can be both. You should be both. And if you're not working to be both, you will be in the future. So, if there's a freight train coming, your choice is either step off the tracks and let it come by you, or take it on face first. Train's going to win.
Yes, please, no one go try that this afternoon. We already know the outcome of that. That's, and Roman, you and I were talking about that earlier too. This, when urgency hits, we are suddenly able to make change very quickly. But then you're often in this place of reactivity rather than taking that proactive approach, seeing the freight train coming at you on the tracks and planning for that. And I think, and I Chase, you're hitting on a few things where I kind of want to go next, but just making sure that I understand these points, because I think both of you hit on this and they're really important. The first is, when we're talking about this conversation, that you shouldn't be choosing between them. You should have tools that enable you to be both productive and secure, and really making sure that that's the focus of your organization, is not seeing them as oppositional, but instead part of the same trajectory, the same infrastructure and workflow. But the second thing that you hit on, and Chase, this I think really stood out for me as well, is think about the productivity lost. If you want to talk productivity loss, well, if you're shut down and you have to go back to paper, then that's going to be a huge disruption to your workflow. So they can't be mutually exclusive, and they won't be in the future. So get on board, I guess, is what we're saying. And that's kind of where I'd like to take us to next. Chase, you were talking about a little bit about zero trust, and you are the zero trust doctor. So I think I'd like to kind of transition and see if maybe that's part of what we're talking about. Especially when we're looking at, okay, so we've given people a lot of reasons to be worried about their 90s technology and to consider making a change. But I want to talk about the how. If there's somebody out there that's thinking, great, cool, Roman, Chase, I'm on board, I'm with you, I hear you. And now what? How do they begin to take step 1, step 2, step 3, and eventually get to that place where they don't have this dependency?
Yeah, so I mean, I work with orgs all the time on this, and for me, it's think about the same way that you adopted the current technology stack you have today. You didn't wake up 10 years ago when you started your business and go to, I don't know, Micro Center and say, sell me everything in the store and turn it on. Right? That's not how you did it. You basically were like, I have this problem. There's a technology that will do this thing. Let me buy it. Let me try it. Let me adopt it. Let me roll it out to my workforce, and then go from there. And you grew, and as you grew, you became more operational, et cetera. It was a long-term sort of boil the frog type scenario, right? The water just gets gradually hotter over time. It's the same thing when you're trying to move into better security solutions and security technology. If you go today, like Roman was saying, and just go, we're going to gut our entire security stack and we're going to put all new stuff in, stand by for heavy rolls. Like, it's going to be miserable and you're going to cause a lot of problems and nothing's going to work right, because that's a bad idea. But if you flip the script and say, okay, where do we want to be? What does success look like? Let's work our way backwards from there. And then what are the things that we can easily put in place that we know will cause a massive degradation to the adversary's ability to be successful? And that, I think, is what really is worth wrapping your head around. Go look at the last 5 years of the Verizon Dibber. Go look at the last 5 years of the Ponemon reports. It tells you, like, this is the only space in all of warfare where the adversary literally says, this is what we're going to do because it works. And people sit around going, I don't know what we should do. If VPNs and passwords are what they use to cause compromise, guess where you might want to focus first? And this is the flip. And the last thing I'll say, since everyone likes to map themselves to the Lockheed Martin kill chain, take the Lockheed Martin kill chain and invert it, and then apply your controls based on what the adversary does. If you do that, you will be successful. And having been an adversary, you can make us miserable and we'll go find another target. That's what you want. There is no rising tide lifts all ships. If we live on the same street and I have Dobermans and no one breaks into my house because you have Chihuahuas, that's your problem. I win. Like, that's the way that you've got to kind of think about this stuff.
I'm totally with you on that, Chase, except Chihuahuas are terrifying. That is my...
Yeah, you might get an artery in your ankle or something, right? Yeah.
But point taken. Roman, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, that's, I mean, what I would like to add is, looking at the actual, attack chain is actually a pretty good way to think about it. If you, there's often multiple steps that an attacker goes through, right? They gain this initial access, and it's often through a VPN and a stolen credential, right? But after they do, they attack a system, they do privilege escalation, they do enumeration of your entire network, and then they spread laterally, right? And that ransomware, if it's ransomware, it could potentially then exfiltrate data, or it can lock your systems, right? So it's preventing, that type of those attack vectors every step of the way is important, right? Starting with initial access is often the best way to address this, right? So if you eliminate the VPN, you can eliminate the initial access vulnerabilities, but it's not enough, right? You have to actually protect yourself from privilege escalation, from lateral movement as well, and from data exfiltration. And zero trust offers you controls, all the way through from the initial access all the way to data exfiltration on how you prevent these breaches. And often things that are simple to implement. Let's say that you can't replace your VPN right now. Well, can you segment your network? Can you do identity-based segmentation? Can you do identity-based, granular access control to your assets? Can you protect your data and ensure granular control to your data, right? All of those things can often mitigate if you really can't replace your VPN today. But ultimately, you have to do that as well.
Well, and this is, I think, Roman, exactly where we sort of want to bring our interactive panel discussion to a close, and then we'll open up to some questions from the audience as well. Is let's talk a little bit more about zero trust. You've just given us some great insight into, and of course, lateral movement seems to be something that's really a hot topic right now as well. So when we're thinking about zero trust principles, we're thinking about possibly making this change towards a VPN alternative. What are the things that we should be considering first? Where do we start with that? How do we sort of make that transition possible through zero trust?
Right. So to me, really zero trust principles really start with the identity principle, really, understanding the identities, not just for your users, but also for your applications, machines, and even data, right? And then creating these controls for access around that identity, not a perimeter, not a network perimeter, which is commonly being used today, but really an identity perimeter. And what assets is this identity allowed to interface with? Whether it's a user interfacing with a set of assets, applications, or machines or data, or whether it's another machine that needs to exchange, data or information with another asset itself, right? So creating that framework for managing identities and policies, creating this identity-based perimeter. But there's some other, principles that are involved as well. First of all, the perimeter concept is gone, right? So any identity is, there's no implicit trust anymore. If you're inside of the perimeter, it doesn't mean that you have access. So every trust is always requires authentication, specific authorization, and reauthorization every time you're doing tasks that are more privileged and require higher levels of security. Unlike VPNs, with zero trust, these users, these machines are really not ever truly inside of the network. VPNs put you directly into the network. They give you an IP address on the network. With zero trust, what you want to do is, keep that user, keep that machine out of the network. And, it's never inside, but it's able to interface and exchange information with the other machines or get the data, but never being inside of the network, never being really inside of that perimeter. The other thing is with zero trust is you want to, time-bound interactions, right? Often today, if something has a connection, it'll just have a connection, and it'll leverage that connection whenever, right? What we like to say is, make sure that everything is done just in time. It's just for the right amount of time that's just needed. So only that, initiate the exchange when it's required and limit it to the period of time that it's required for. And also just enough access, right? So just, just enough access to do the things that are required, and with proper permissions just for that session. When everything is done, everything goes, all of the accounts, all the credentials, everything is removed, all the sessions are closed, and there's nothing really to worry about on the network, nothing for hackers to really try to take advantage of as well. Everything is just clean, as if nothing is really happening. It may seem like that's a big transition, but zero trust is really a journey. And the other big misconception is that zero trust requires this whole re-architecture. Requires me to buy new systems, new assets, new applications, new networks, everything new. No, it's often a misconception. In fact, we've seen customers, go on a zero trust journey and get immediate results very quickly, on top of their with their existing assets, preserving their existing investments. There's ways to deliver zero trust, remove VPN dependencies and eliminate them completely, and deliver zero trust without having to install any agents, without having to install any clients, or without having to make any network changes. As delivering zero trust as an overlay on top of what you already have. I'll talk quite a bit. Chase, you want to add anything else to that? Dr. Zero Trust.
I mean, I would just remind people that hopefully your parents talk to you about kind of living zero trust, whether you realize it or not. So think about this. Let's say that I have an electrical issue in my house today. I'm going to get on the phone. Now, I could fix it because I'm going to go on YouTube and figure it out. But let's say somebody has an electrical problem. You go call a contractor. Contractor shows up to your house. Now, what's the first thing you do? You make sure that they are who they say they are, right? You should be checking their identity, make sure that you understand when they're supposed to be there. And then you're going to ask them, cool, what are you going to fix? I'm here to fix the, bathroom lighting. Okay. They come in, they fix the lighting, and then you pay them and they leave. That transaction was session based, and then they're gone. You don't have some random person show up to your house and say, I'm here to fix the electrics. And you go, cool. Would you like to move in and date my daughter? Like, that's not what you do. Would you like the beer in my fridge? Perhaps you would want to use my toothbrush. That's not what you do. You don't live that way. You do this in the same manner in ZT for digital systems. There's a reason you're there. There's a session that you're going to be there. You can do something. And when it's over, you're gone until you need to come back again. And then I'm going to run through the same process again. The only digital difference is I can do this at scale and at the speed of light. So I just remind people all the time that hopefully your parents taught you to be a little bit more, not paranoid, but just aware of what's going on and understand that there are bad people out there who might do bad things to you. So be safe and protect the boundaries of what is important to you. It's your house. It's those types of things. It's just a digitization of that sort of approach that ZT is all about.
I love that example, Chase, and I think it's something that, especially just even when we were talking a little bit earlier about the human sides of these things and change management, and I think when people are thinking about security and thinking about the frustrations of it, or sometimes people react to the idea of zero trust. What do you mean you don't trust me? And if you put it in a practical sense like that, you wouldn't invite the guy in to come in and use your toothbrush and hang out and have a beer in your living room. Maybe you would, maybe have a beer, depends on the contractor. But, I think when we put it in that practical sense and in that real life sense, it does feel very reasonable. It doesn't feel like you're asking for an unreasonable amount of hoops to jump through. But somehow when we're thinking, we were talking recently about not learning about phishing emails or clicking on phishing emails being the equivalent of kind of putting the keys to your organization out on the street and just walking away at the end of the night. If you ever worked in a small shop, in university or something. And these are things that when we think about them, we would just never do. We would not do that in a practical real life sense. And yet somehow when we're talking about protecting our organization, sometimes it can feel different. So I appreciate that sort of practical reframe. And I think you've both given us a lot of good reasons to consider zero trust. And especially as we're considering finding that VPN alternative. I'd like to kind of take a quick transition into some questions from the audience here, as we are very close to the end of our time, which is a huge bummer because I could talk to you guys all day. Before we get into the Q&A, Roman, we have a couple of sort of next steps up on the screen here. Anything that you'd like to kind of talk to us a little bit about getting the demo or, learning a little bit more about Zero Trust with Xage Security?
Yeah, so we have a number of great marketing material on our websites. There's also a recorded demo. The products are really very simple to get started with. There's a way to sign up for a trial. We could get that going within minutes to hours. Our customers get on their zero trust journey the same day. They're able to see results the same day. That's how easy things are with the Xage fabric. And like I said, it's a common misconception that you're going to have to go through this whole re-architecture and do lots of preparation in order to just even get started and see results. You could see results immediately with zero trust. You could be more protected, and you can eliminate the VPN solutions. There's material that talks about this. There's a video that we have that shows you exactly how that's done. Take a look at it, and happy to entertain any questions around it too. Or there's also, I think there's an email link where you can email Xage, and we can provide a lot more information as well.
Roman, I love that point of just not letting it feel overwhelming, not letting it feel insurmountable, but just taking those action steps and being able to see those results right away. I think that is a really important thing. Chase used the gym analogy earlier. I think that's a good one. Or I always think about like starting flossing. It's really painful at the start, but you got to do it, and then it immediately adds that value. We also have a couple of handouts I want to make sure everyone spends some time with. That's the State of Zero Trust in the Industrial Enterprise and the top 5 must-haves. This is a really great takeaway, something absolutely worth considering. So please do make sure that you're getting those handouts. Again, those PDFs, download them, put them aside. Don't go anywhere just yet, because we're going to get into a few of your questions. Roman, Chase, you ready for a question or two?
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Chase, this might be one for you because it came in when you were chatting a little bit about the productivity versus security side of things, and wondering a little bit about how that connects in with zero trust. So the question here from our audience, when you're talking about modern cybersecurity, how can my organization effectively balance the convenience that I get from my VPN access with the ideas and principles of zero trust in order to avoid these risks?
Where you are is always comfortable. You've worked hard to get there, and you're probably sitting along in the Navy. We always called it floating fat, dumb, and happy, and you're just kind of chilling. But so was everybody else before things went horribly awry. And if you've ever been in a situation where the stuff has hit the fan, all of a sudden, all that comfort is no longer available to you. So the question you should really ask yourself is, do you think that you're any better than all the organizations that have spent hundreds of millions of dollars and still failed because they didn't engage in the right practices and have an actual strategy? If the answer to that is no, you need to do something different. It doesn't need to be a sea change, doesn't need to be a categorical shift. Start small, think fast, win big, but begin to do something. Sitting around and crossing your fingers, hope is not a strategy.
Right. When it does hit, it's often very sudden and devastating and major, right? So when some of these vulnerabilities or exploits came to light, and the recent VPN exploits, which seem to be happening every week now, by the way, and accelerating. I know that government agencies, for example, were given 48 hours to get rid of the the products that we're using, right? And that is a tough situation to be in. Imagine all of a sudden you got this mandate and you got to get the stuff out, and you got to go to something else, and you get given 48 hours to do so, right? So you're happy and relaxed for days or years or months and years probably, and then you're under tremendous stress to get things back in order and just rip it out. That's not somewhere you want to be, right?
No, it certainly goes from floating to tsunami very quickly when it does, and nobody wants that. It's funny, Chase. Every time you say floating, I know you're talking about Navy ships, but the image in my head is like tropical drinks and a floaty kind of thing. So
that's the better kind of floating. Yeah.
That's a better kind of floating. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to sneak in one more question. We have just about 2 or 3 minutes left in our day here together, which is tragic because this has been so interesting. But I really like this question. And so I think it's a great place to wrap up, because I'm going to ask both of you to answer, and our audience is maybe thinking ahead, looking at the future and kind of what's coming. So question here from our audience. You guys have given us a great idea of the technologies that are evolving, the threats that are becoming more sophisticated. Curious what you envision as the future of zero trust principles and VPN technologies, how you see them kind of fitting in, and how can my organization prepare for this potential paradigm shift when thinking about securing their networks?
Roman, do you want me to go first, or you want to go?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, if you like. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's y'all's webinar, so you go last. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think where you're seeing is there's a convergence of technologies in the space that's making security part of the experience for the user. We're getting to a place where it's not going to be the Rubik's Cube from hell to do cybersecurity. It's just going to be part of your native experience. Just like if you remember, I don't know, say 7 to 10 years ago when you got in your car, you had a GPS thing that you brought with you and all the other stuff to get. Now you just get in your car and do whatever. If it's a Tesla, I guess you tell it where to go and it takes you there. But the whole point is it's native to the experience, and technology is actually automating that experience. That's where we're getting to.
Yeah. So to me also, I mean, VPNs are primarily used for remote access, right? So in today's world that is constantly being attacked and susceptible to threats, really you got to pair the principles of remote access with asset protection, right? So you cannot enable or provide remote access unless you're also protecting your assets, right? And zero trust offers you a great way to accomplish both. If you want to put it in sort of the industry terms, or maybe Gartner speak or something like that, really the stack that an organization needs to implement is a combination of ZTNA solutions, privileged access management solutions, and microsegmentation solutions. You want those things to really come together and work very smoothly together as a part of a complete package, a single solution where your remote access is provided in a way that is using zero trust principles, granular access, just in time, just enough access, that your credentials and accounts on all your systems are managed, rotated, using all use identity principles. Privileges are controlled, and that your network is segmented to such a level that there's very granular control between which assets are allowed to interact with each other. Typically this requires multiple solutions coming together, disjoint solutions people have to piece together. Xage really offers this as part of the Xage fabric in a comprehensive package that is all integrated. So there's a single solution to deploy, and it just works out of the box.
Well, I hate to say that that's probably where we'll have to wrap it up, but I think that's a great note to end on. Before I let you guys go, Chase, if somebody wants to reach out and get in touch and continue their conversation with you, podcast, what do you recommend? What's the next step?
Yeah, please, if you got time, listen to my podcast, Dr. Zero Trust. Easy to find. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn, and it's probably the best way to get a hold of me. So always willing to help if I can.
Perfect. And Roman, with Xage, best way to get started, visit the website, get a demo.
Yes, that's very easy. Just your email address, you sign up, you'll have a demo same day, and you probably have it installed the same day as well.
All right. Fast acting. I like it. Well, Roman, Chase, this has been so much fun. I've learned a ton. I know the audience has really loved it. There were a lot of questions that we didn't get to, so we're going to make sure that those get sent to your team, Roman. So Xage Security will be able to follow up with you. So you have any last questions, get them in. There's still time. We'll make sure that you get some answers. Make sure you're clicking on the screen. Make sure you're getting those handouts. I have to say, guys, thank you so much again for this conversation. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate both of your time.
Yes. Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Jess. Thanks, everyone. It's great.
All right. Well, and to all of you out there that asked some great questions today, again, keep those coming in. We are going to get some answers back to all of you. Keep clicking on the handouts. Make sure you've got those resources. I am going to give away a quick prize, and then we are going to get on our way. Gilbert, I see your high five. Thank you for that. I agree. What an awesome session. My brain is still kind of buzzing, all lit up. James, I see that from you as well. Some great high fives coming from all of you out there. And you know what? I agree. Just an absolutely wonderful wonderful. It is really cool, right? When I love good slides, I love good presentations, but when we get to actually sit down and talk about some of these things, and you get to see where the experts are excited to dig into, what sparks their attention, what they want to get into and explore, rather than necessarily following kind of a set pattern. I think it's really fun, and that kind of pulls us in. We get into the gravitational pull of their expertise and their interest and their passion. And so I really enjoyed coming along for that today, and I can see that all of you did as well. All right, I got sidetracked. Let's get to the prize. All the good vibes coming at us on the questions window pulled my focus here. But a prize giveaway, $250 Amazon gift card going to someone who is here live and present at our webinar today. And that special someone is Florence Claros from California. Florence Claros from California. Congratulations to you, Florence. We will follow up with you after we wrap. We will also be following up with that best question gift card. So keep those questions coming in. All right. Well, with that, we are going to have to bring things to a close. So on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank Xage Security for making this webinar possible. A giant thank you to Chase and to Roman for guiding us through such an interesting conversation today, which of course, as always, brings me around to all of you here with us. My biggest thank you, my biggest high five to everyone in the audience with us today for making this discussion possible. I saw some great feedback. We got all of you in asking some questions on the polls, helping, getting involved, getting interactive, and that's what makes these discussions so interesting. That's what lights up all of our brains collectively together, is sharing in those moments of learning together. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you've enjoyed your time with us here together today. I hope you're feeling ready to take some action. As Roman said, there are easy action steps to get started. Don't let this feel overwhelming. Don't let the 90s responses get 90s outcomes. Boy, there's been a lot of good takeaways from this webinar today. So I hope you're all walking away ready to take some action. And I hope that I get to see you all at a webinar again soon. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.